Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know what I'm here to do. I'm here to rock live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver adjacent studios. That's right. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Go to SamTripoli.gold. Use the promo code Tinfoil and get precious metals sent to you for as little as $50 a month simply by joining the Wolf Pack. Guys, I did an emergency episode here today. Very excited. I have a great interview with the man, the myth, the legend, Justin Harvey, and he is a gentleman who is suing one of the cities in Florida for violating his First Amendment rights when he was discussing the 1986 Space Shuttle Challenger hoax. It's a great discussion. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Real quick, if you want to see me live, just go to SamTripoli.com, click events, and I got a show at the end of the month, Long Beach on the 28th. I have another Comedy Chaos coming up. Have some dates at the end. I have more dates coming up. Looking like Louisville's coming, dog. Bang, bang, pow. It's going to be a great ending of the year. Very excited for you guys to hear my new stuff. So yeah, man, enjoy the this episode with Justin Harvey. Enjoy. All right, let's get into it. Very excited to have this guest on. He's a grassroots activist, and what he's doing is amazing, and I'm very excited to have him on. Please welcome Justin Harvey. How are you, brother?
Doing good, man. Happy to be here.
Glad you're here too. Glad we can make this happen. I've been following your stuff for a little while, and it's an exciting topic to me because I think it will shock people to their core to understand the levels of deceit that are out there. But I'm excited about it. So, Justin, for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on just about anywhere: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Justin_We Are Change. Or if you can't find me, just look up We Are Change Orlando. But
I love those guys.
Oh yeah, so that's how I'll start my story, because in a nutshell, it was about 10, 12 years ago, I found people like Luke Rudowski, and I stumbled into the YouTube rabbit hole. I had a pretty standard life. And then when I found those guys and found out about Monsanto and 9/11 and the Federal Reserve, I was pissed and I wanted to do something about it. And when I saw people like Luke Rudowski and people organizing these protests, march against Monsanto, I got involved. So I started doing the We Are Change Orlando and the March Against Monsanto Orlando. So I'm out here trying to kind of mimic a little what Luke's doing, wake people up to, eat healthier, not vaccinate their children, all these different topics, right, that we stumble across. And the fight just kind of evolved from big food to big pharma. Over time, I've come across confronting people like Peter Hotez, Joe Biden, my county mayor. We really gave him hell when it was during COVID, because we were speaking at city council meetings over and over with firefighters, with vaccine injured people, bringing an inflatable elephant to make him address the elephant in the room, which was a vaccine injury. Like, we over time, my activism, I guess we got more creative with it. The censorship caused us to get creative. You'll see highway banners and airplane flyover messages, some of the things we've done. And then, somewhere along that line, I discovered, things like this, where we weren't necessarily told the truth about, NASA and where we live. So I took some of those activism and waking people up tactics and just kind of directed it towards NASA. And that is probably what some people have seen me, bringing up the Challenger or the ISS discrepancies. And, if I've always said if it's affecting our health or our freedom, if we're deceiving the children, I want to make people aware and I would like to hold people accountable. So whether it's protesting or speaking at these city council meetings, sometimes I think we've found a bit of a good strategy to sort of get in there and make a stink. So that's kind of what I like to do.
And I think it's important, as somebody who's been doing this, obviously not as long as Luke Radowski, but, like get into like the conspiracy podcasting game almost 8 years ago and just been going down these rabbit holes. You go like, why do we do this? And for me, it's just like I just want to be able to look my kids in the eye and say, "Hey, I tried. I tried to wake
Right.
everybody up. I tried to pump the brakes. I tried to push back. I tried to, change the course of what we were going, where this country's going. I still do have faith that we're going to win. I think love and I think God always wins in the end. What that looks like, I don't know, but I do believe we win at the end. And so that's why I do what I do. And that's why I think I'm what you're doing really resonates with me. We just dropped an episode with a really great podcast guest and Christopher Stevens. And we brought up NASA briefly and, and for me, dude, like NASA is like a giant money laundering scheme too. Fund a
Oh,
lot of the dark stuff going on in the world. These, like where does this money really go? And it's a lot about disabling the rest of the world, stealing other people's resources, and all that stuff. But for me, it really starts off with JFK, the assassination, and all that stuff. So, but before we get into that, because I can get a little ahead of myself, why don't we get into what you're doing right now? Because I think you talked at a city council meeting and it kind of blew up on the internet. I think everybody saw it, and I know I was cheering for it because I thought it was great to see somebody like putting it on the record. So why don't we start with that? What is your basic premise so everybody knows?
yeah. So just a little backstory on that. That's what I've been doing as of late. Within the last 2 years, or within the last year, I've essentially spoke at two Brevard County Commission meetings, one about NASA's ISS and one about the Challenger explosion. And at both of these meetings, I really just wanted to go in and, like you said, get it put on the record officially and ask these people for help. Like I can't get anyone else to listen to me. No congressman. NASA obviously will never answer the phone. So I was like, well, let's go to our local council meeting and ask these people. I've been talking to them about COVID and stuff in Orange County. Let's go over to Brevard and talk about NASA. Kennedy Space Center is in Brevard County, right? They also ask the federal government for help with things all the time. So it didn't seem totally out of the realm for me to go and do this. So that's what I did. I really wanted the federal government to sound the alarm about these issues. So I brought in, I showed the evidence of the ISS in the one, and in the most recent one, I brought the poster board of the astronauts, quote unquote, doppelgangers, and showed them to the board. And about halfway through, the chairman got so triggered by just the sheer thought of what I was bringing up that he throws me out, escorts me out with police, throws Austin Whitsitt, who was with me, out as well, another guy with us. Some other ladies were sticking up for us. They weren't even.
So,
no
hold real
knowledge
quick
of the
before
topic.
we move forward.
Yeah.
What he got upset with is your belief, which is my belief, is that
Right.
the Challenger astronauts are still alive. At least
Yes.
all of them, but possibly one. But
Yes.
they're still alive. That's your basic premise that you presented to this county, this city council, and they lost their skull.
Yes, and I apologize. Sometimes I forget people need like the basic details. I feel like everybody's brought up to speed. But yeah, the premise is that in 1986 that rocket exploded empty. And those people, for whatever reason, we can get into the possible motives and agenda, but for whatever reason was empty. And we, traumatized millions of Americans and school children that day. For what gain? And if that's true, like I said, it needs to be brought up and people should be held accountable. If it's just a coincidence, then let's just shut this down and we'll stop talking about it.
Well, you bring up a lot of great points, and to me, the space Challenger hoax, we'll call it at this point, it symbolizes and embodies everything that the elites do to the masses. And
Right.
it's what Monica Perez calls a black mass trauma event. And that's what they're doing. They're traumatizing a lot of people. And the reason I kind of pumped the brakes on what I was talking about earlier when I brought up Kennedy is because Kennedy, again, that's a black mass trauma event as well. But there's things that were presented to Kennedy that he vetoed, and we'll get into that. But this is what they do to us. This is why they do it to us. So let's start the beginning of when did you start to think that it is possible that what you've been told about the Challenger is not real? Let me do it. How old are you?
I'm 37.
So this at 86, how old were you?
So yeah, I was born in 87.
Okay, so you weren't even alive.
I didn't even
Okay.
get to experience what everybody's commenting under my video and describing their trauma.
I 100% experienced this. I was
Yeah.
in Mr. Aspinwall's class, and the event happened. They had us all watching it, which was a very weird thing. For
Yep.
some reason, they had to have us all watching this astronaut situation, and then bang, it explodes. And what was very interesting was that the kids in the class just had a weird reaction to it. And some people were joking about it because like they were trying to digest what was going on. And Mr. Aspinwall got very mad at us, explained to us that these astronauts are doing stuff that we were never. It was like a very weird. They laid into us as we'll never ever be able to do this, and it was traumatizing. It was traumatizing to everybody, that big event. And, and it changed kind of the way the space program operated at that point. So, yeah, man, it was a big event. It was a very big, 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 big event. And it's interesting to me, the whole. And so when this story came across like a couple of years ago to me, it was like really resonated with me. Because
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at too, was like I was looking into the Eric Dubé, the shape of the earth, and like NASA's lies, the moon landing. I was already looking into that for briefly, but then quickly, when you're in the NASA rabbit hole, you come across this story. And I was just like, wait a minute, that's a little strange. Okay, one of them has a look-alike, two of them maybe. Okay, you can find some, but the same names. So I quickly, due diligence, I went and looked it up myself. I find like 5 of them. I think it's 6 really, but I only stuck to 3 for reasons we can get into. But when you see that many, and then you could verify, and then 2 of them have now been confronted on camera, it's like the odds of that are crazy. And I talked about that in my speech. I tried to research myself, find other doppelgangers. I was reaching out to people who paint doppelgangers for a living. And there was never a story or case where they're like, yeah, not only do we have this crazy doppelganger group, but we actually had people with the same name doppelgangers. Never mentioned. It would be the biggest story. The only one I could find was from like 1904 or something, about 2 guys. And they said, oh, we got to create fingerprinting now because these guys look alike and have the same
really?
name. Yeah, that's how big of a deal it was. And that could be who knows, that could be a made up story too.
The only time I hear about that is these baseball players. I don't know if you saw
the baseball players are the other one.
That's literally it. That's literally
and that one's interesting because if you take off their hat and their glasses and shave their beard, they don't look like Dick Scobie and Judith Resnick. They just, now it is weird that they have the same name and play Major League Baseball and they do have that look. But again, let's take the baseball guys and let's take my guys from 1901. You can't have 3 on one space flight.
No, you're totally right. That's it.
So
Like
crazy.
the odds on like all but one.
That's like you, your mom, and your dad all winning the lottery in the same household in like the same year or something. Like,
no, you're totally right. The odds on that, and not only that, but it's like suddenly 2 of them have twins that were never on the record for having twins.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually want to talk about the twin thing because I don't know if they're messing with us or if they're covering their tracks really well, but I can't find the source of that information now. Like every mention that they were ever their twin is gone.
Oh,
so
yeah,
either
that's
we all got
internet.
tricked or they have scrubbed it because I tried to dig it up because I kind of wanted to talk about the twins. And man, I kept running into so many roadblocks. I've even said publicly, I think we could be wrong about the black guy McNair, because there's just a very different shaped head and gap in his teeth. But the Asian guy, the teacher thing is still strange, even though she doesn't look like strikingly just like her. But again, I set all them to the side and I say, Mr. Francis Richard Dick Scobie. I mean, that's a unique name. And then
Yeah.
Judith Resnick, another unique name. And that you just, to have doppelgangers. And then Judith, people have done Judith's voice comparison. She even sits the same way. She's got a gap between her fingers that are the same. Dick Scobie, if people don't know this, Dick Scobie, his doppelganger, let's assume they're a different person, created a company called Cows and Trees. And in his promo video, he has a cow blast off from a rocket into the sky, leaving a smoke trail. So you mean to tell me there's a guy that looks just like you with a rare name like Dick Scobie, the same weird line in his mouth and the crooked eye, and he happens to have a promo video with a rocket?
Right.
If that's not the guy doing like a little Duper's Delight moment, then I don't know what that is. And when we found out about that video and started sharing it, that all got taken down and that company is no longer in existence.
Well, what really is going on here is something that we're seeing a lot on the internet, which is some 1984 shit, which is
Yeah.
basically rewriting history and wiping out any narrative they don't like. And you see it with I just had somebody the other day, one of the guys, Raven from the Nephilim Death Squad, who's out of Florida as well, and he was asking if anyone can find any links to the New York City cops who found Anthony Weiner's laptop and everything happened to them, and he can't find it. And I go, it's gone. They've wiped it off this kind of what I call a panopticon Potomkin village. I've put a bunch of things together where it's like they want to give the illusion that the internet is this giant thing, and really they just got it like on lockdown, and they want us to think that they're always watching at all times. And they're just erasing data from the internet that you can no longer find. That links that go nowhere. That's huge. Let's study the dead internet theory, and it 100% probably applies to this subject right here. So the reason it's an interesting conversation is because we kind of get into like why, how, what, why would they do this? This is the question. Why would they do this? Well, the reason I brought up JFK earlier is because when JFK was president, one of the things that helped seal his doom was the fact that he didn't want to false flag Americans into a war with Cuba.
Right.
And it's the famous Operation Northwoods, right? Which is they wanted to create this big publicize this big event, which was they were going to make up a fake music festival in Cuba. And they were going to do this thing where they were going to send these college kids over there. So they were going to do this big interview with these college kids, do a big press tour, talk, put them on every daytime show, interview them on everything, everywhere. Then they were going to have a big event where we were going to see them go, goodbye, we're getting on the plane, goodbye, bye, bye, bye. You see our college kids which were most likely going to be played by CIA or FBI agents. They would get on the plane, go in the air, the plane would land, and then another plane would go up in the air and full of explosives, and they would blow it up, and they would present it as Cuba shot down this plane full of kids. College kids who just wanted to go play at a music festival. That's all they wanted to do. And which is step by step by step the exact thing that happened with the Challenger. Step by step by step, but it actually happened. And it's crazy to me. When you learn about Operation Northwoods, I remember I learned about Operation Northwoods, was blown away, and then I learned about the Space Challenger, and I'm like, oh my God, it's step for step the exact game plan that they wanted Kennedy to do to get us in the war with Cuba. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the perfect example. Honestly, I use that all the time because when people are, oh, I don't, how could they, or why would Operation Northwoods was done in the 60s or attempted in the 60s. So if you extrapolate that out to what they could have possibly done in the decades leading up, from the Gulf of Tonkin to 9/11 to any of these shootings to the Challenger, I mean, yes, it's totally plausible. And you just described it. And then so to get them into war is things like what we described, 9/11 or that Cuba situation. What would be the gain for not, and some people think, oh, well, what if it was an accident and they just never are on these rockets and it happened to blow up and they just needed a cover story? To me, that goes out the window with the whole teacher thing. Because, like you described, what did they do? They brought in the teacher. They had 11,000 finalists. One of my best friends says, oh, my teacher almost made it. Everybody's got a teacher that almost made it. So everyone's connected to this thing. And they rolled that TV out in every gymnasium, in every classroom. So everyone felt so, that to me, that is my like, okay, this was done purposeful for your mass trauma type of a scenario. So then you have to ask yourself why. Was it to get the boomers unwavering and impenetrable barrier around NASA? So if you ever question the moon landing or the ISS or anything NASA did, they would say, oh, how dare you, those heroes, those 7 astronauts died for us. That could be part of it. Some people described in their comments under my post about being a kid and being scared to ever want to be an astronaut. So then it scares the general public from doing it. So only their selected crew of CIA agents get
Freemasons.
to be they're little astronauts. And we've always heard, there's only a handful, hundreds of astronauts, not thousands. It would be very easy to just handpick these people, and whether they're MK Ultra cloned or just really good, useful idiots like Don Pettit, I don't know, but something's definitely going on there. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's some type of bizarre mass trauma exercise, and we can really only speculate why they do that creepy stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a very weird thing with these mass trauma events where it's like something goes really bad and then they get more power and money. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It almost goes with oil, right? If you study oil, they'll be like, oh, a refinery blew up in blah 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 area, gas is going to go up $1. Well, you're like, that makes no sense to me. Why are we taking it? Well, you guys should be. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you order food and the food gets fucked up, they bring you back another dish and then they charge you more money for it. That makes no sense to me. You effed up. Right. It's on your end. Why am I taking the L on this? And this is just what they do. 9/11 is a really great example. I really do believe 9/11 is a morphing of this Operation Northwoods. It's a little different. There's not as much publicity in terms of before the event. There was talk of Osama bin Laden. There's talk of possible, attacks and what was going to happen, but the odds
on a surprise.
Yeah, the odds on 9/11 happening, if you actually broke it down, are absolutely astronomical. It would never happen. It's as close to what you said earlier. 3 people winning the lottery in one household. It doesn't make any sense at all. The most fortified airspace in the world somehow gets penetrated by 2 dudes who can't even, a bunch of guys who can't even fly regular planes. They do the most Top Gun bullshit to get these planes, and just somehow. Yeah, it just
the Pentagon, all of it. Yeah, it's silly.
I mean, we're a lot more savvy now. It's like, and if you get into a lot of it, it's just like, it's very hard for them to pull a lot of this stuff that they're pulling right now. But it really is about emotionally manipulating you into allowing them to do what they want to do, because they really, at the end of the day, are all sorcerers. And they're just running they're running manifestation mysticism on us because they just have these weird rules. I don't know what it is, and it's a blessing that they have this rule, because it really makes it hard for them to do what they want to do, even though they tend to get what they want all the time. But this weird rule, it's just like, kind of like, what's the old vampire, the Lost Boys? That might be way before your time, but the Lost Boys, the head vampire has to be invited into the house before he
Yeah.
can walk in. And you know, it's just this kind of rule they have where they have to get us to co-sign on what they're doing. And it's like, because we would be bombing Iran right now if it was up to them, but
Right.
they just keep trying to find these ways to get us to buy. Oh, you
Right.
know, you got Trump now going, oh man, they're hacking my campaign. It's like Iran, they try to shoot at me. Like, nobody's buying it, dog. Nobody, like, you guys use up that with
And you bring up a good point there with just Trump and the and 9/11, because the trauma, think about the trauma from, if you bring up 9/11, oh, how dare you, those people died. You bring up the Challenger, oh, how dare you, the shootings. Oh, how about Trump's ear? You bring up the question that, and people, oh, how dare you. It's like,
yeah.
if you can traumatize people, they will basically believe whatever the official narrative is and attack anyone else because they feel like there's something tugging at them emotionally. I mean, that's why you can't question the shootings with kids. If you do, everyone's, oh my gosh, how dare you? It's like people died. It's like, well, I'm just going to say, and I've said it a million times, if something happens to anyone in my family, I would like to know who really did it. Most of the truthers have good intent. Most of them, I'm not going to say all, but most have good intentions and are trying to educate people about what really happened to these people in our country with these events. And we get attacked, but we have to remember that they have been manipulated to react that way. And it's very tricky to navigate.
Hey guys, real quick, I just want to tell you about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver and why it's so important to invest now in precious metals. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. That's right. Join the Wolf Pack now. Trust me, because if you're paying attention, you know the de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all precious metals, all things precious metals. I love it. I am part of the Wolf Pack. Every month I have precious metals sent right to my house, and I love it. See, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver is veteran owned and A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. As little as $50 a month. You can have precious metals. You start loading it up, man. By the end of the year, you'll have a good chunk of precious metals. Dude, it's crazy. You just go to SamTripoli.gold. You can see all the different plans they have. Man, it's like $50. Lone Wolf, Warrior Wolf, $125. Alpha Wolf is $250. And it just keeps going up. Sent to your house. Right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. Easy peasy. Get in, get out, get your gold, get your silver. I love it. I'm doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, all of these affiliates I use, and I use Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I use it all the time. It's real simple. So if you want to get in, this is how you do it. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So here's what I need you to do. Okay, go to SamTripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. That's right. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. And you bring up a really great point because, you know, this becomes, you know, America has gotten more and more politically savvy as we go. I mean, they're starting to understand conspiracy, right? You know, like I wanted to have this one guy on my show because he is talking about how there's a good chance that that Sandusky could possibly be innocent. Now, I don't want to get into that right here, or it may, you know, but this is his premise that Sandusky actually, you know, it didn't happen, and a bunch of people flipped. I haven't been able to interview, but I hit him up. And I go, hey, man, you know, I do this show. It's a very popular conspiracy show called Tinfoil Hat. And we would love to have you on to talk about your research into the Sandusky trial. And this guy hits me back and he goes, well, I'm going to have some, I don't want, paraphrase what he says, which is basically, I have some reservations about coming on a show called Tinfoil Hat because I despise conspiracies. And I just kind of let go. I'm like, I'm moving on. I don't need you to give you my audience if you're going to say something as retarded as I have a problem with conspiracies when the whole premise of what you're saying is a conspiracy that people conspired to frame Sandusky as this giant pedophile guy. Now I haven't heard the evidence yet, so I'm not co-signing on anything. Anything to me is possible. Anything to me is possible. But for you to say I don't like conspiracies, you're literally pushing one. You're pushing that people conspire.
He doesn't understand the term or where it came from.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just like this older guy that just has been traumatized by and this is coming from an older guy, 51-year-old, calling another guy an older guy, that he just doesn't understand that they got you. When they have you demonizing a term, they got you, and there's a lot of these guys who are like, by the blessings of God, are now waking up, who for a very long time hated the term conspiracy, like my good friend Jimmy Dore. He really they called me a conspiracy theorist. I go, dude, you gotta stop reacting to that. It's actually it's
becoming a compliment.
It's a compliment, and you understand what is actually happening in this world instead of having a weird freak out about it. So, but like people just don't understand it. So people are waking up. But I remember when the Vegas shooting happened, and like people would lose their mind on me. They're like, people died. How can you say that? And I said I remember going on my good friend Jason Ellis's show. We had a debate. At the time they would bring me on, they would try to ambush me, and we would just, and I would just stand my ground. But he's like, people died. I go, yeah. And if my family member was one of that, I would want the person who did it found, not a patsy thrown under the bus as the guy who did it. I would actually want to know who harmed, who killed my family member, and not just be like, just throw somebody, overboard and blame them for it. That's not what I would want to do at all.
And what's so interesting is the original truthers from false flag events are typically the people who died there, like their family members. The firefighters from 9/11, they're the ones who got sick and died because they told them they could breathe that air. They wanted to go after the EPA. They had their firefighters hearing bombs blowing up, and they wanted to know what happened to them. And that's what I always like. People get, I'll never forget when I very first started activism. I was on the street corner giving out something for 9/11. And this lady, because, they call us truthers, and she rolled the window down and she took it and she's like, oh, you guys must be one of those truthers, huh? And I just was like, so what are you with, the liars? Like, how's that a bad thing? It's like they've stigmatized so many different words that like, even being associated with finding the truth can be a bad thing if you brainwash people enough.
And it's very weird because it's like, I have my girlfriend. It's her birthday today. I love her very much, but she still watches MSNBC. And I go, how many times does Rachel Maddow have to get it completely wrong for you to go, maybe I don't need to hear what she has to say?
Right.
And it's just like, this show in December will be 8 years old. It would not have made it this far if we'd had a shitty record of calling what's going on. I had a friend of mine, I say it all the time. She had a very popular podcast that was based on the Mueller report, and she was buying it hook, line, and sinker. And then it came out that was just a giant lie. And now that podcast isn't going anymore. It had a great name and people loved it, and they were blowing up and they were excited about it. And then it turned out that the Robert Mueller was completely full of shit, that he's a swamp person and he's just making shit up. And then their podcast isn't around anymore. And I don't say that with glee because, this woman's my friend. I want her to be successful, but at the end of the day, it's just like, you got it wrong, and people don't listen to the show anymore because you had it wrong. Now, I don't know the specifics of why it's not around, so I don't want to be disrespectful to her, but it seems like that is what happened to me. To her.
If anything, COVID should have shown people, who got it right, who got it wrong. I mean,
it was a retard test.
Huh?
It was a retard test. for
It
sure.
really was. It was like the ultimate litmus test of the century, where if you ended up in it, it's okay. I guess I'll give some people a pass if you were like the first few weeks, first month. If you woke up during COVID, cool, because that was like your wake up call. But to the people who still like trust the narrative and believe in climate change and wear a mask and do all these things, it blows my mind, because now it's like harder to have sympathy for people because we've had so many wake up calls. I've come to the terms with a lot of them probably just aren't meant to wake up. So I stick with people on the fence. I try not to argue with the trolls. I talk to the people that are like, but which is crazy because the moon landing has essentially become sort of almost like accepted, especially in the conspiracy crowd. But more and more people are like, okay, I'll give you the moon landing. Okay, I'll give you the COVID vaccine. Like, how come people aren't realizing like who has been right throughout this? I've never met a former flat earther, and I've never met a former anti-vaxxer. I've never met a former, like, anyone who was, yeah, some people have to eat some genetically modified something when you're on the road, or you got to do what you got to do. But like, I've never met someone who was absolutely just figured it all out and then went right back to buying it in. And anybody who claims that didn't fully get out of it. They just kind of, flipped through a couple flat earth Wikipedia pages and gave up and turned themselves in and said they looked into it. But there's just
The
not
interesting thing is Joe Rogan, who's a good friend of mine. Like he was at the moon landing didn't happen, and then he
Oh,
got
that's
into
true.
like the moon landing really happened. And the only reason I bring that up is because now on his new special, which I loved,
I saw it.
he said that hey dude, I don't think we land on the moon. And like what upset me about that whole thing was the reaction of the conspiracy community to that, because people forever were like, you don't go back. And now you have this guy who, I know on a personal level,
Right.
who everyone has this belief on him. And trust me, like I'm telling you, the guy he's his own master. He really is. I know people don't want to believe me on that. I've had so many conversations with this guy, and now he's like, yeah, man, you tell me after COVID, I would tell you that we probably didn't land on the moon. It's what we've always wanted. Why you guys have
I
this weird
know.
reaction to it? I don't understand that we should be celebrating it. This guy with this humongous podcast is
I
finally
know.
back on our team. And I always think he was. I think he's very smart in
And
how he
it's
operates.
And I honestly take the unpopular opinion of like way less controlled opposition out there than people claim. So I'm
Yes.
with you. And I'm like, I think it's unfortunate because let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say you're right, him, and he's just like, maybe he's gone back and forth a little. Maybe he's coming around now because of COVID and because of you and Eddie and great people talking to him. But like, give him the benefit of the doubt and celebrate it and welcome it, instead of like you said, if you bash him, how is he ever going to have Eric Dubé on? Is he ever going to have, any of these people on? No, not if people act like that. So I'm with you, man. I even give like some of the enemies the benefit of the doubt, because if I approach them as if they're ignorant, they're much more likely to have a discussion with me. You know what I mean? But like if I approach someone like they're evil and they're lying, they're like, oh, screw you. You think I'm da 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 da. It's like, okay, well, let's just talk about it. So like if I bump into Joe on the street, I got to ask him questions. I can't be like, you're a shill, da 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 da. Like, which one is going to get
It's
us
so
anywhere?
stupid, dude. You're
So
totally
I
right.
don't agree with it either, man. I'm with you
Yeah.
with it.
Honey gets more flies than vinegar, dude. And I just, again, the guy, I know his journey, and sounds like you're a flat earther. Uh, and I'm open minded to it for sure. If you go, Sam, gun to your head, round or flat, I'm going flat.
Yeah.
I'm going flat.
Yeah, I
It just,
know. I've seen enough of your guests and I've seen enough of you talk. I can pretty much, I can tell where you stand.
yeah.
I
So
know where you're at.
I'm way more of a flat earther than I am a round ball guy. But it's just super interesting because I think people think that being a conspiracy theorist is exhausting. And it's really not to me. The hard part is, I have friends of mine like, dude, I'm getting black pilled. Like that's the hardest part,
Yeah, yeah.
is not getting black pilled,
That's
because
true.
this thing that there's no hope, and that's what they really want you. They either want you to be a sheeple, whatever that term you want to use for those people, or be black pilled that there's no hope and all is lost. I won't ever get to that. I asked Whitney Webb, who I think is one of the most important journalists out there,
Agreed.
is there a spiritual aspect to this? And she said she hasn't gotten into that part yet, which you have to. like, at the end of the day, when, we talk about Dave Smith, who we absolutely, me and the guys on the show, absolutely love and adore and think he's doing a really great job. But it's time to get into the spiritual side of this war of God versus fallen angels. At the core is God versus fallen. That's my real belief.
You talking about Dave Smith, the comic libertarian guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He's going into all these debates and just curb stomping people, and it's really great to watch. And he's like such a brilliant guy with his words on how he
He
talks.
is, man. I really like his delivery too.
But it's gonna come a time. Maybe when I go do Skankfest, he always has me on a show. I'm gonna ask him, Dave, when are we gonna get into the spiritual side of this? When are you gonna pull back all the layers of the rotten onion to get to the core of it? And the core is, and it stems from all this, God versus fallen angels. And this is, when we get into the Challenger hoax, it is spiritual warfare. It is again a spell and sorcery to manifest stuff. And so when we get into like the golden era of just running psyops, has to be 60s, 70s, 80s. Okay. They got television, they got radio, and they got print on lockdown. And they can tell us anything we want. We're very naive. We have the influx of this completely and utterly manufactured culture, which is like every cultural leader is a controlled op. They're either CIA or they're FBI, and they're pushing us away from God. And I don't know where you are on that, so I don't want to go too far into that if it's not your thing, which is fine. They're pushing us into this kind of like loosey-goosey morals, all this stuff, and so they're running everything. You look at the feminist movement. Gloria Steinem is completely and utterly controlled opposition. Her mother is like an old like UN sorcerer from way back in the day, pushing women into feminism, which breaks up the family unit. All this stuff. So when we fast forward to, when was this, 1986? Yeah, because you were born in 87. Yep. So in 1986, I mean, dude, the internet isn't what it is yet. It's like, it's not even out to the public, I think, yet. So maybe just the infant, it's in its infant stage. What a wonderful time to run a trauma event. You have everything on lockdown, reactions to it. And
great point.
Hey,
they were in their sweet spot. You're right.
They were really in their sweet spot. So the question becomes this. Okay, we're going to buy into, Justin and Sam's crazy theory that these guys are still alive. How'd they do it? And that to me was a great question too. How did they allow this? How did this thing happen? I mean, literally on the day, step by step, how does it happen? Well, one day on Twitter, I don't remember where it is, somebody sends me a link to the Rubber Room. Have you ever heard of the Rubber Room?
Is this the little chute slide they go down?
Yes, it's the chute slide that if something goes bad, the astronauts or people working on it hit this chute slide, go all the way down into this giant concrete room. Bunker. Yeah. Right? Do you know about it? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So you're talking about a segment. It was either History Channel, BBC, one of them. But there's a guy, and he goes up there and shows it to you. And he's, they think it's super cool. He's like, at the last minute, the astronauts can, if anything goes wrong at the very last second, before they get in that craft, they can jump down this slide. And he goes down. It's like an airplane, like inflatable slide or something, and goes into a safe room. And they've got these big chairs, and they can just like strap in. It's just looks like total for show. But that just goes to show you right there. That's how easy it would be for them to, I mean, hell, you watching the video of them waving to you could have been from 2 days ago, getting off the little NASA bus. But let's say it was live. They wave at you, they get on the thing, they go up there, and then they go down the little slide and they're safe. They launch the rocket up and it blows up. So I don't think, how at the moment is too hard to explain. The how gets more difficult when you talk about covering up their identities, implanting other stories of the other person, changing their names. I've even got some inside info on one of the astronauts that, like, since the video has gone out, let's just say some people have reached out to me with more information. and it's not leading me to believe that we were wrong. I'll just put it that way, but I don't want to give too much up.
So do you got some information that we might not be 100% correct?
No. I'm saying I have information. It's not showing that we were wrong in any way.
Oh,
It's basically
okay.
confirming more.
Okay. So what I find very interesting is, again, this is why I bring up the internet. Like when this thing happens, the internet isn't even close to what it is, or even or anything. So
At all, really, yeah.
running this aren't thinking about, oh my God, how are we going to cover this up with the internet? So like, if you just popped up into my world, because you either on Instagram or on Twitter, I see that you're talking to city council, but outside of that, I don't know Justin Harvey until today, this wonderful conversation. But Justin Harvey, let's say, goes in Florida and robs a bunch of banks, right? And all of a sudden he moves up to upstate New York, where I grew up, and now he's living life. I don't know what Justin Harvey did back there. There's no internet saying, watch out for Justin Harvey. He likes to rob banks. There's nothing like that. So you could move in some whole new life over here, which is exactly what they do. It's like, oh, look at these people. They get on this plane. They get on this thing. It blows up. That's the end of the story for us. We all move on. They can go on and start their own life because I guarantee you, like the 95, 96% of the people out there don't have their names seared into their brain of who these astronauts were and their name. Most of the people couldn't tell you any of their names.
Exactly. And you make the best point. No one imagined the introduction of the internet and the ability for people to search their university profiles, their Facebook, their family pictures, match things up. So probably what happened is when they proposed this and they were like, look, like, I want to keep my same name. Like, I want to keep my same profession. Okay, fine. We'll let you work at a university in the same field, keep the same name. No one can look you up. Like, it's not even coming across. It's not like, well, can people look me up? It's not even a question. So like you said, you can move, it's 2024. You could move an astronaut right now to a small town in, I don't know, Nebraska, and people would be around them and they're never going to go, I'm going to Google Daryl whatever today and look him up and see if he was formerly a astronaut. Like, it's just not even going to happen in now's day and age. So if you go back, it's just probably feasible for them to let them at this university for a couple years before the Challenger explosion. If anyone does look you up, it's going to show that you were already working here. We'll say you published a couple papers, boom, you're covered. The other two guys can claim they're their brothers. These two, maybe they had a plan. The one guy that we can't find, maybe he really did the secret move to Argentina. I don't know what he did, or some people think he could have actually died of natural causes a couple years later. They just sweep it under the rug and we never find him. But
or he wanted to come out and be like, this is a giant hoax. It could be that he came out or was like, I can't do this anymore. We're lying to everybody. They're like, okay, wrap it up, buddy. We don't need you around here anymore.
They gave him the Gus Grissom treatment.
Well, if you get into the one professor, I mean, like, again, you're talking about odds on looking exactly like with the exact same name. Okay. And we saw those baseball players, but what you're talking about is that, and the same age, but we're talking mannerisms on how she talks. She talks with her hands.
Yep. Accent.
Go on. Sorry.
She's even got the same like Northeastern accent. She sounds like she's freaking from Boston, like both ladies. Like, I get it. Like, okay, you've got another Judith Resnick. Oh, she's only 18 years old. She lives in Wisconsin. You mean to tell me she lives in the same part of the country with the same accent and the same general, like, they almost all have the same professions too. Like, even the ones that I don't think are as strong of evidence, that person is in the same profession. Like, the teacher's still a teacher. What?
Yeah. It's like they didn't even think about getting more creative with it because they didn't think anyone would ever find out. We were naive, but they were also naive. They had it so easy back then. It was like, it's like when you study like kind of during Trump's whole thing, and like, I'm not a Trump guy in any way, but when the Trump narrative was happening, you saw the return of all these old neocons, whether it was Dick Cheney or Henry Kissinger. They brought them back because they were crushing it back in the day with their psyops. They knew how to manipulate the masses. and they bring them
Right.
back, and they're trying to get them going. Like those guys have no clue about the internet. They don't know how the internet runs. They didn't have to figure out psyops that the internet could they didn't have to deal with the internet instantly pushing back on their narrative, which to
Yeah.
me is like, the peak of them realizing they were in trouble was the Vegas shooting. And then the Trump thing, the Trump assassination was them having figured out how to do it and just instantly getting ready to flood the internet with misinformation, where like within 5 minutes we have three different possible shooters. Nobody knows who it is. You have people who normally really do have really great lockdown. I like people who were like normally always get it right. We're getting everything fucking wrong.
Yeah.
They were taking down videos because they're like, I got this wrong. Like I never saw it
Right.
before. I go, oh, they've figured it out. They can't control it, so they got to flood it. This was just a
Nothing
totally different time.
Nothing dropped out of the media faster than Trump's assassination in Vegas. Like those two things just disappeared. They just did not want to talk about them. Isn't that crazy?
It is totally crazy. And what's very interesting is I told this story on my other podcast called Broken Simulation, but I was doing a show in Pittsburgh, and I have a lot of great fans in Pittsburgh. I hadn't been there for a while. I do my joke, and we're doing a Q&A with me and Eddie Bravo, and somebody brings up the Challenger exploding. So I tell them why I don't think it's real. I tell them all these guys are alive, and I get off stage, and a woman comes up to me and she goes, "I need you to know that my cousin or my aunt, I forget what she says, was the professor Judy, what's her name, with the hands and all that stuff, and she's dead." I go, listen, I'm not here to be and get in a fight with you or argue with you, but what you're telling me is that this woman with the exact same name, the same lip situation,
Right.
with the exact same name, same lip, same hand gestures, everything, same name, is teaching over there at either Syracuse or Harvard, or I forget the
Yale.
school,
Yeah.
Yale. I'm sorry, she's alive. And you can get mad at me if you want. I don't care, but she's still alive. And I don't want to fight with you, but that's my whole opinion. And she's just like, she's dead. And she walked up. I'm like, I wonder if they're all told, listen, you got to kind of run with
Yeah,
this.
you got to wonder what part of the family it breaks down, because you got to assume that the immediate family is in on it. I mean, were these people just like CIA plants their whole life? Like, I don't know, how were they raised into this? And then, but their third and fourth cousins can't be in on it, right? So there's got to be a break somewhere where people actually do think this person died. I've got I think someone kind of reached out to me and was asking questions about it that was related to one of them, and they were like, "This is interesting." They weren't like that lady. It wasn't like, "Oh, that person's dead." They were like, "I'm actually like curious to see what you have to say about this. I saw the video on TikTok." So there's more questions than there are answered, but I think that emotion takes over. Again, I'm not here to argue with any family members. If we're wrong, we can be wrong, but we need a statistician or a DNA test or something, because something is not right. And that's exactly why I had to bring it to the city council. And that's exactly why they kicked me out. It was uncomfortable emotion. And that's why I'm filing the lawsuit, because I can't.
Oh, shit. Tell me about that. I want to hear the lawsuit.
Oh, yeah. So we didn't even talk about that yet. So after the guy kicks me out of the room, I get put in contact with a lawyer who specializes in these county commission cases. And, the fact that he called me crazy on my way out, said, go see a mental institution, shows that he kicked me out based on the opinion that he thinks I'm crazy. So you can't do that as a public official. And I don't want people to be scared to go in there. So I want to prove a point that we can talk in there freely about things that are relevant, because it is relevant to them. It happened in Brevard County. I wanted the county to contact the federal government to investigate. They had just asked the federal government to write a letter to the Department of Transportation that day. So it wasn't out of the purview. So we're basically suing on First and 14th Amendment grounds. And the lawyer's been nice enough to cover a lot of the costs. I still started a little fundraiser. So thank you to anybody who donated to that, by the way.
Is it still going, the fundraiser? Can they donate to it?
Yeah, we're pretty much I put like a tiny goal of 2,500, but I'm probably going to have to up it if they don't throw it out or settle, because if we have to pursue, it'll cost more. But it's already up to like $2,400. So if anybody wants to donate, feel free. But I'm just grateful that people threw me money and the guy is doing it for free. It's like I just have been reiterating that I never had a plan to like sue the government or go after the council. But if you're going to kick me out of a public comment period based on the grounds that you disagree with my opinion, yeah, we got a problem, and I'm going to file a lawsuit. So,
And it's just super interesting to me that person is in that position. And it's just like, the process in which they completely infiltrate every aspect of every level of our government. It's like, to me, it's everything is data, and know exactly like who they can control, who they can't control, and they get that guy in, and he has just a giant reaction to it. Like for me, let's say I'm running it, I would just laugh. I'd be like, "Okay, dude, congrats."
The
Good luck.
smartest thing for them to do is just shut up and say, next speaker, please. Every time they do that, our videos get hundreds or thousands of views. When they fire back at me and call me a liar or kick me out or do this, our videos go mega viral. And then we go back and say, you shouldn't have been able to do that. You were wrong. And it's like they give us ammo. Their best bet is to shut up. So when he opened his mouth, I was really upset when it happened because I'm thinking, I worked on this presentation. I wanted to put this on the record. But once we got outside, I realized, well, that's actually going to make the video more popular. And sure enough, it did. It was, super viral in no time.
So what is so you're taking them to court, and what are you suing them for? Calling you crazy? Are you, what is the goal of your lawsuit at the end of the day?
The goal is because he called me crazy and threw me out of a public meeting as a public official. So I'm basically suing him for violating my First Amendment. It doesn't have to do with the challenger. It was just, I happen to be talking about the challenger. But what's interesting is since Mr. Jason Steele, who is an appointed man, not elected, the governor put him there, he can only be unappointed. That person who tried to shut me down has now made this story bigger than ever from kicking me out. And now the lawsuit, it's going to be even bigger. So it's really going to come to bite him in the butt when, you didn't want anyone talking about this. Well, now it's a bigger conversation than it could have been.
It's the Streisand effect. The minute you push back and you make it a bigger thing, and now it's going to even get bigger, and people are just going to see that you 100% are in the right to at least be able to voice your opinion on the situation. And I hope that you really do, like, this just goes mega huge. And I know, like, if you tag me, I'm going to retweet it. And even if you don't tag me, if I see it, I'll retweet it, because I think people need to understand, like, what NASA is. And, there's a whole discussion of what the word is. There's a Hebrew word called nashah, which is to deceive. You have all of these Nazis who, like, if you go, Sam, who won World War II? A lot of people think it was the Allies and all that stuff. I go, well, if you're really asking me who won World War II, I would tell you the Nazis. Germany got destroyed. I think that was their job. And then everyone thinks we won a lottery and we could pick our favorite Nazis. I personally think they just walked over here. They walked over, dun, 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 dun. And then they walk over here. And they don't even change their names. They like if you're trying to deceive everybody, going back to this whole thing with, like, nobody changes their names. If you're trying to hide, right? Let's say SamTripoli's wanted for murder. SamTripoli doesn't move somewhere and my name is still SamTripoli. Now it's like Mac Johnson or something like that. So nobody knows who I really am.
I know. And that's what I think part of it is, like, the hidden in plain sight thing, because you're less likely to believe it. You know how many people I've had comments say, oh, this is so stupid, they wouldn't have let them keep their same names, therefore I don't believe it. Like, well, just because that they screwed up or did something stupid or did something they shouldn't have done doesn't you can't ignore the evidence of the statistically impossible doppelgangers. So you can say, oh, well, how about this? We'll let you keep your same names. We'll just fake some of your history. They do that with CIA spies, I'm sure, all the time, which is interesting because I'm not sure if anyone's brought this up to you. You've talked to a lot of people about NASA, but there's people that have told me they think NASA is like a worldwide intelligence agency, and the space program is just the cover. And what better way? I like the idea, honestly, because what better way to control Antarctica, the North Pole, the entire world, using your satellites on balloons to literally monitor everything. But yet you're just claiming you're up here wringing out water on the space station all day long, doing stupid little space tricks with your plants, sending us fake pictures. I mean, that is the best cover for worldwide CIA. I guess someone told me at one point that they knew this is all, speculation and hearsay, but someone claims that they saw at one point top-down orders. And it was like all the intelligence agencies of the world, CIA, KGB, MI6, Mossad, but above that was the space community.
Really?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't doubt it, because that is the one thing that they all agree on. Dude, this is so nuts. I literally saw an article, and maybe you posted, I don't know, but I saw it just literally yesterday, saw an article which said all the countries want to join NASA. All of them. They all want to be a part of NASA. And it's something like a friend of mine from way back in the day said, like, oligarchies help oligarchies. And it's just like, it's like the KGB and the CIA, maybe they're butting heads, but there's also times they both want to control their populations. So they might work together in a way that is mutually beneficial. But if you,
I mean, it sounds to me like they call each other and are like, listen, we know our leaders are at war. We know about XYZ, but we got that Antarctic treaty in place, and we're going to have to meet you down there for a meeting next. There is a very good chance that they are in agreement on the Antarctic treaty, whatever's going on at the North Pole, and the super secret things. But meanwhile, it's like, we'll let our presidents and our governments play the war games. But they don't know that the guy controlling Henry Kissinger and the guy controlling Putin's Henry Kissinger agree that nobody's going to Antarctica. What did Buzz Aldrin see that gave him a heart attack down there? I want to know. That guy clearly wants to speak out. So
no, I find, well, Buzz Aldrin's constantly telling us that we didn't go there. I mean, it's
so weird.
It's not me. Ask, but like, you see clip after clip, he's like, because we never went there. And everyone's like, what did he just say? And they just dismiss it as a crazy old guy, whether he's talking to Conan O'Brien or like a young little girl. He's like, because we didn't go. You think we went, we didn't go. And he just says it. And for some reason, I don't know whether it's revelation of the method. They need him to say that. So they kind of like, they could be like, we told you, like, we didn't go.
Or it's just his conscience. Maybe his conscience is getting through, and he's like, man, Neil kept it quiet. Michael Collins kept it quiet. Maybe I can leak out some truth and just play the senile card. Think about what Neil Armstrong said. He never gave any public speeches. And during his one speech, he gives a speech to students. And instead of saying anything about the moon missions or anything motivational, he's like, I hope that the younger generation can remove some of truth's protective layers. Like,
what?
That sounds like an astronaut that's been silent for 60 years. It is like, please figure it out after I die. That's what that says to me.
You just said something earlier that just now kind of hit me, is when you were talking about like all the people going to you, oh man, when I saw that, I didn't want to be an astronaut. And like Eddie Bravo always talks about how there's so many of our horror shows just happen in space, in the forest, in the water. And they're like, the prophet Eddie Bravo always says, what if they're just trying to get you not to want to go in the water? What if they're trying to get you not to want to live in nature? They're like, oh, dude, you go to nature. You go to these little towns out there, bro. Dude, they got a guy with a fucking chainsaw, and he's going to kill you and your whole family. Stay in the big cities, man. This is where you want to go. We got no Jason Voorhees in the big cities. We got none of that. It's like, that just really resonated with me. It's like, don't even dream of trying to go to space, because this thing will blow up. You want to stay here on the ground in our little petri dish.
This is Truman. This is Truman. I mean, I always use this example. People say, oh, why would they lie about where we live and NASA? Because like you said, I'm sure we would get to this, but it's way deeper than lying about a rocket. It's way deeper than politics. It's way deeper than the ISS. This is about our history, where we live, the spiritual aspect. What are they actually hiding from us? We don't know. But Truman was a lot easier to control when he didn't know what was going on. But when he started to go, wait a minute.
The Truman Show.
Yeah, the Truman Show. He started to pick up on it, and he was a real pain in the butt. They had to keep throwing psyop after psyop at him to make him think he couldn't leave. Now, I always tell people, imagine if everyone was Truman and was that curious and was trying to explore. All these people climbing the freaking ice wall. We wouldn't be climbing the Capitol on January 6th. They would have been climbing the ice wall. But nobody's doing that because they don't even think it's there. They took it away and they created a prison planet. They took your world and they wrapped it around the ball. And you just think if you go around, you come back in the same spot. So I think it's so much deeper than the rocket and the astronauts. I mean, our true history, you've interviewed Hibbler plenty of times, like his old world order. That's really what they're trying to hide with this space stuff. They keep us focused on the aliens and space. We never explore the ocean. We never explore these hidden underground buildings and these pyramids down in the water. I mean, dude, there's so much out there. And I think that's why they want you watching Don Pettit wring out water all day long and doing that shit.
So real quick, I'm not going to keep you much longer. You're also about the ISS station. What is going on with that? You don't think anything's up there? Do you think that's just underwater? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
So I think something's up there. I just don't think it is a space lab full of people the size of a football field flying at 17,000 miles per hour. I think that they filmed the exterior spacewalks underwater, most likely in Houston at the NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab, because we've seen bubbles in space. It sounds like they're underwater at times. There's astronauts have had water leak into their helmet on numerous occasions, and they've almost drowned. They claim it's leaking cooling garments, cooling equipment. Who knows? But and then the interior shots, they've just had so many screw ups with green screens and glitches, getting caught in their wires and harnesses. I actually confronted astronaut Anna Fisher at NASA about the harnesses, and I asked her a loaded question. And I was like, yeah, we keep seeing these harnesses and stuff, and people get tangled in them. Why are they there? And she was like, oh, well, she did a Scott Kelly. I confronted Scott Kelly about bubbles in space once, and they did the same thing. They do the nervous body language. They laugh and they say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's not really there.
I mean, they say like we've never gone through the Van Allen belt, which is hilarious to me. How they take something spiritual and then they flip it scientific, and it's just basically the same thing, but it allows people that don't want to believe in God or connect with God and out, which is the Van Allen belt sounds a lot like the firmament. But for some reason, everyone will accept the Van Allen belt as the law of the land. But you go, there's a firmament out there, dog. Water from above, water from below. Nothing. Quiet. Nobody says anything. Dude, the weirdest thing is when you have people who are really, let's say, I've had two people on that are straight up like, we didn't land on the moon. NASA's full of shit, whatever it is. And then, but they still don't believe in flat earth. They don't believe in the firmament. And they're quoting God all the time. I go, do you believe in the firmament? No. We're on the rock. But buddy, you're quoting the Bible and you're just totally ignoring this thing that's in the Bible and quoted on his tombstone on Von Braun's tombstone. Like, what are you talking about?
I think there's those people either have a relative that worked in the space program. They were an amateur astronomer growing up and looked at so many planets. Sometimes when people have a strong connection to things, it's hard to break them. Imagine trying to convince a pediatrician that vaccines are bad. I've actually had hours-long debates with Kelly Slater about flat Earth. But he tells me that he's been in so many airplanes and been on the water for so long, I think his subconscious will never let him allow that it could possibly not be a spinning ball. Yeah. And I think people have to admit that they were fooled, and that's really difficult.
They can't do it. Everyone thinks they got the world's greatest bullshit meter.
Yep.
And it's like, I go through this in comedy, dude. Everyone's like, oh, these people run media. These people do this. These people, blah, blah, blah. I go, who blows up in comedy? Normies. Entertaining normies, right? Because they all see the world. They're all like, and like, I have so many normie friends. I love the pieces. I love them. But man, they can really resonate with other normies because they're talking about really normal shit. Guys versus girls, farting, dating, going to work, being married, all those normie. Oh man, you ever been to Target? It's like normie ass shit, and it's like, oh my God, I've been to Target. That's so funny. And like, dude, and so like I have to figure out how I can connect with these normies. It's really hard because stand up is like it's the greatest art, but it's also the most limited art because I have to get them to react to my thoughts. And if they're thinking at all, they're not laughing. That's why you go to these giant arena acts. And for the most part, they're not doing like, not all of them, but most of them are just really basic fucking shit.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the rappers or the artists. I mean, if you do the normal stuff and the normal people love it, like great. But if you're the truther rapper, dude, you're you're performing at the protest, not at the Amway arena.
100%. 100%.
It's just kind of the way it is.
It is. I wish I could be I'm like, man, I wish. But from the start, I was just always questioning everything. From day one, my dad raised me to be a paranoid dude.
Oh, really?
Question everything. Don't believe anything you hear and half of what you see. Very early, he told me that. And I was listening. Good. Yeah. So here we are.
Mine was overnight. It was like age 25, know nothing, find out about everything. Like normie to just conspiracy, truther, whatever, awake, whatever you want to call it.
Let me ask you something. Yeah. If you had that moment in the Matrix where you go back to being a normie, would you do it?
I'd have to stay that way forever.
You could be like, you can just go back and you just want to, it's not steak, but it tastes like steak.
No, I can't do it. I think about it sometimes. Don't get me wrong. We all do. But like, I couldn't because guess what? I would have locked myself down, masked myself, and vaccinated myself over the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah. And you would be like ticking time bomb in your chest. Yeah. It's crazy. Hey, Justin, this was a great conversation. You're a really good dude.
Thanks, man.
This was an easy conversation. It was a fun conversation. And you have an open door to if you ever want to come back on, discuss your lawsuit and all that stuff. So where can they find you if they're looking to connect and maybe help you out? I'm going to put the link to your GoFundMe or whatever you're running to help you with your legal fund. That will be in the description below. Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You could find me most active on Instagram and Twitter, which I still call Twitter, Justin_WeAreChange. I'm also on TikTok at the same handle, but like I said, We Are Change Orlando on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube.
I love it, buddy. And I'm a huge fan and I'm glad you did this. I'm going to be watching from afar, but anytime I could help out, don't be afraid to ask, and good luck with everything, dude. I think it's super important. And again, everybody, if you're listening to this, you made it to the end of this episode. You probably are deep in the conspiracies and you realize that at the end of the day, it's not hard to be a conspiracy theorist. And the reason you want to be a conspiracy theorist is so you don't fall for their spiritual traps. And it's not that, you don't have to calculate a lot. You just instantly see what they're doing and you don't fall for it. And that's, they want you to pay attention. And when you don't pay attention and you pull out your attention and you put your energy into other things like your community, your family, your children, connecting with God, that's how you win this thing. At the end of the day, that's how. Pull your energy out. Look what's happening to the mainstream media. Nobody's watching it. Hollywood's dying, because nobody's watching their stuff because they haven't honored the business of you entertain us. You don't influence us. We just want to laugh. We just want to enjoy your content. We don't want to be lectured all the time. So if you're a conspiracy theorist, you're on the right side of this. Don't get black-pilled. Just breathe, have fun. Pull yourself out, work on being a better person, and spiritually grow. And I appreciate you guys and enjoy this breakdown. This is a great episode. Enjoy this breakdown. All right, let's break it down. A lot of things are going on here. First of all, some of you guys who are watching the video might notice that my beard changed during the show. The intro, I have a very short beard. The conversation, I have a longer beard. because I did this interview early in the morning and I had to go record Deep Waters with Dylan Wren and the super trunk Ryan. And then I went and got my hair cut. So that's why it looks different. Episode today. It was a wonderful, wonderful episode. Justin is an easy guy to talk to. He's a fun guy to talk to. And it's a really great time when you can have a conversation with somebody and just know that you don't have to make any kind of real reservations about what you're going to talk about. Meaning you could just go, pedal to the metal on your discussion on conspiracies, which was a real fun thing. He's very knowledgeable, running with the good guys, Luke Radowski, all those guys, Hibbler. He's doing nothing but bangers in terms of people. So it was a great conversation, and we'll see where it goes, man. I think it's the Streisand effect that they did. If you're running these council meetings, just let crazy people talk and go, thank you. And now, full disclosure, I do not think Justin is crazy. I'm just saying from the perspective of the guy who kicked Justin out, should just let him talk. It would have ended, would have been done. It would have been simple like that. And, as I look around, to all these everybody talking. Now listen, guys, just so everybody knows, okay? I'm not saying that I was the first person to ever do a conspiracy comedy podcast. I believe there was some other. I don't know. Is Tiny Meat Gang? Are they a conspiracy show? Are they just a UFO show? I'm not quite sure. I know they were up there as well, and obviously the last podcast on the left, they're a conspiracy show. They definitely come from a different side of political discussion, which is totally fine. I love those guys. I don't listen to anybody's podcast, just so you know. I don't listen to anybody's podcast, and I don't watch anybody's comedy specials. I could list on one hand the amount of people's specials that I've watched. And it goes Nick Swartzen, his 30-minute special from 20-something years ago when he was just 20 years old on Comedy Central. Two of Sam Morrill's, 15 minutes of Joe Rogan special that just came out because it came out during when I was performing. And then finally, when Dylan made me watch the trans comedy show for content. So those are it. So, I don't watch or listen to a lot. So don't take any offense. I don't know exactly what podcast is what podcast, but the reason I bring that up is because there are so many comedy podcasts now that are talking conspiracies, which is a blessing. There are so many podcasts that were started that are now comedy conspiracy podcasts, which are a blessing. I love having them on my shows to help get them some following. And down the line, it probably cost me some listeners here and there. They're like, I've been listening to Sam forever. Let me go listen to these new guys. And that's great too. The more the merrier. The more the merrier. They can't silence all of us. I'm very excited about that. That's a blessing. But the reason I bring that up is because topics like these, it's going to take so long for these normie people who are now just beginning into conspiracies to even be able to phantom what Justin is proposing, what Justin and I talked about, which is, could they have perpetrated a lie so big for so long? And the answer is yes, 100%. And I mean, even though 9/11 happened 15 years after this, a lot of people would say this was a much bigger event, which I think it's only bigger in the sense of what is believed it's casualties. I don't think people who weren't around when it happened realize exactly how big and how traumatizing this event was. And again, it's kind of like what Justin said, and it's what the prophet Eddie Bravo has said, which is like they traumatize you on certain things because they don't want you wanting to go there, whether it's space, whether it's Antarctica, whether it's the water, whether it's the forest. Okay. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Don't go live in those little cities. They got crazies. You know? So it's interesting to me. And when you do find so many people with the exact same names in the exact same event who are still alive when supposedly these people are dead, it shocks you to your core. And you just start to realize that's all Babylonian sorcery. And you guys keep getting mad at me about this shit because I don't want to call it the Jews. It's the Jews. It's so much deeper, bro. So much deeper than that. You know? It's so sorry, someone. So people just don't realize what we're up against. Sorcerers who aren't afraid to do whatever they have to do, cause lives, kill people, to manipulate your senses. And again, what is the biggest moment of this episode? What is the moment where you're like, whoa, bro? The biggest moment of the whole episode is when we start to discuss, is NASA a global intelligence agency? That to me, mind blowing. Best part of the whole episode, blew my mind. The whole episode is absolutely awesome. Nothing but bangers and great episode. But that moment really starts locking in because, again, you see these articles about how all these countries just want to line up with NASA, want to work with NASA. And it gets into something. I couldn't remember his name when we interviewed it because it was so early in the morning. But Ron Placone. Well, even though Ron Placone and I don't necessarily agree on a lot of political stuff, I think we do agree on some stuff, but we don't agree on everything, which is okay because I do like Ron Placone, is that he said oligarchies help oligarchies. And I do believe NASA is an oligarchy. NASA's whole job is to keep us from Antarctica. And what that represents is there more land? Are there more people like us? Are we the Australia of this giant turtle back? I don't know, bro. It is crazy. It's really crazy. And I love it, dude. I find it to be a very interesting conversation. I think it's a very important conversation. And once you start to believe once you start to understand that anything is possible, it makes you start to wonder, what is real? And this is where we're getting to, where what is real, what is not real. And I think people are going to get to the point where they just realize that they can't follow the news. And you're going to have to find shows like Tinfoil Hat, but you're going to have to find like the people who are every moment cranking out great content like daily, which is like Whitney Webb, right? The Last American Vagabond. These guys who are like who are constantly in the battling the forces of censorship to get you the truth. Those are the gray zone, those guys. Jimmy Dore. These are the people who I listen to, and they come from all sides of the political spectrum. Jimmy Dore is now a conspiracy theorist. I know he gets afraid of that term. I don't know why. I love him to pieces. Don't run from it. Just own it. Once you own it, they don't care. Right? They don't care. So, Jimmy Dore comes more from a left slant. Then you got, Whitney Webb, who I believe is probably more black pill. I don't know if she's right or left, but black pill. Redacted. I really like them. I trust them to get their, and they definitely come from the right. I really like them. There's a bunch of people out there, Isaac Weissip, Jay Dyer, when you're talking the occult, those are great guys. I go, okay, these guys know what they're talking about for sure. So that's what we're going to get to. You're going to have to really get, not even to trust. It's like when I see people on the right talking about Kamala Harris starting to gain in the polls, I don't believe any of that. And that makes me go, hey, dude, are you part of this? Because if you're really on the side of the independent journalist, that is a giant sorcery trick to get you believe it because it's not real. We already saw that. They already blew their load. with the beepa with the Hillary Clinton stuff. So that's it. So again, back to what he's talking about. Really great discussion. Justin is a G amongst G's. Very fun conversation. Justin Harvey. Again, go down below. Check out his links. I'm going to throw him a little support on his GoFundMe for his legal fees. I would love to see how this plays out. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Real quick, if you could just go to SamTripoli.com. Check out my dates. I am going to be in Long Beach, like I said at the beginning of the show, on the 28th of this month. We got Comedy Chaos coming in September. I'm going to go through this real quick, guys. Premium content is fire. You guys are getting so much premium content. I am banging out 3 to 4 episodes a week just on SamTripoli.com. Now, if you let's say, hey, dude, I don't want to go over the place. I just want to be on locals on Rumble. Bang, you're getting up for $5. You're getting 1 or 2 episodes a week. If you go to Rumble, want to go to Rockfin, and you just love their deal, how $50 for everybody, you're getting 1 or 2 episodes there. And then, of course, I'm also on Substack. I'm putting it on there. That's $8. You get most of it. But on SamTripoli.com for $8, you get the Dangerous, and you get Johnny Cash Reads the Bible. Of course, my good friend Howie Dewey. I'm telling you guys, if you love investing in the stock market, Howie Dewey is the man. Go to patreon.com/cashdaddies. Bang, bang, pow. Let's go. Okay. T-shirts, Comedy Chaos. The new episode's going. We have all of our affiliates. Wise Wolf, Gold and Silver, which we told you about at the beginning of the episode and in the ad in the middle of the show. I do it every day. I got money. I got a gold and silver waiting for me right now. I'm part of the Wolf Pack. I do every month. Rife Technologies, hydrogen brown gas. They have depleted our atmosphere of hydrogen. It's why we're aging quicker. Hydrogen brown gas. Again, Harley Ray crystals and candles. We love their website. It's the best of the best. If you need sage, you need crystals, you need candles, we could not recommend them enough. Get 15% off with Swarm 15. Chemical Free Body, my boy over there. I do it I take it every day. I actually take his Green 85. Then I take his supplements every day. Every day. My good friend Joel Staley, if you want to get in shape, check that out. And then EMF Rocks, Dirty Electricity, Faraday bags, lock up your phone so you can sleep better at night. Prometheus on my website is ran by them, decentralized, okay? And they figured out how to upload as many videos as possible. See, the big thing was YouTube. You could upload a video, it wouldn't cost you. Then you try to do it by yourself, it would cost you bazillions of dollars. Well, there's I think it's called PeerTube, maybe. They figured it out, and they'll set the whole thing up. They do myself, they do Jimmy Dore, and then of course Brain Supreme. If you love XG's very, very focused questions, well, you can thank Brain Supreme for that. Sam Trip 15% off your microdosing. Telegram, whether it's the only conspiracies or bringing back Zero, which I'm going to do. We're going to make that happen. All of my audio right there, and then radio, all my specials, all my videos on SamTripoli.com. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I know I did. Enjoy these highlights, and thanks for tuning in. Take care, everybody. I love you. Take care. Bye.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. Did you see that? Actually, this will be of interest to you. The Mexican army is acknowledging that some of its soldiers have been killed by cartel drones that are dropping bombs on the Mexican army.
Guys, let me get into this.
The cartel has drones now with bombs.
Dude, let me get into this. This is the whole thing. Dude, so this is what's happening here, guys. Right. So did you see how APEC, I hate getting political on Broken Sim, but APEC got they got rid of another one of the squad.
Yeah.
They got an APEC puppet in.
Shows you where the real power is, by the way.
Dude, literally, Israel treats America like we treat Latin America.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, even Netanyahu's on the record with that shit, dude. The way he talks about
I
the
mean,
United
I
States.
can't believe people aren't losing it right now at the how
They don't know.
AIPAC, and you study it goes, here's what happened. AIPAC uses their funding to get in politicians that are their puppets. The puppets go in and they vote for just more and more Israeli aid. The aid goes to Israel. Well, what happens is the aid goes to the military-industrial complex, some of it, and then they send weapons to Israel, right? And then Israel takes some of that money and sends it back to AIPAC, and then AIPAC just bribes everybody.
We're their pay pigs again.
We're there. Johnny, America is Israel's pay
We
pigs.
really are. We really are.
We are Israel's pay pigs, right? So what else is happening though is like what Israel does is they take these weapons that we paid for them, and then they give them, and part of it is the cartels, because Johnny and Xavier, because our economy. $50 billion of our economy comes from the illegal drug trade. We have an economy that runs on illegal drugs, cancer, and war. It's not a good economy.
And if that's the truth, which it is, why would that ever go away?
Why would they ever? The war on drugs is a psyop.
Okay, so you brought up the war on drugs and you brought up the cartel. Did you hear about that El Mayo Zambada, the cartel member getting caught?
Yeah, I don't know why he's coming here. Is he trying to run shit?
So the word is that, so you know Chapito, El Chapo's son, the one that was caught up. And
Wait, does that mean Little Chapo? Is that what
yeah,
that is?
the Chapito, yeah, that's exactly what that means. Someone knows Spanish.
So hold on. So if you were a rapper, you couldn't be Little Chapito?
No,
they would fucking murk you?
That's definitely taken, yeah.
Okay.
So word is that Chapito, the son's, Chapo's son, he's 31 years old. He ended up doing a plea bargain with the cartel, with the CIA or FBI, saying, well, I'll give you the big boy if you let me out before I'm 51. So that's how they caught him. They told the big boy, Mayo Zambada, hey, do you want to go see some property in the United States on a private plane?
Whoa!
They get on the private plane.
Now we're getting the real shit.
Yeah, they get on the private plane, but on the way back to Mexico, they do a quick stop in the States, which means you're fucked. And that's when the CIA and FBI come in. They get El Mayo Zambada, and El Chapo's just like, I'm here. Now can I get my plea bargain? My dad's already in. I'm pretty much fucked. It's a matter of time till I'm caught. Can I get a plea bargain for 51? And the guy they caught, his nose is all messed up. He was literally one of the last guys in the cartel. But I think it's all plea bargain, all to...
So you're saying that Chapo's son sold out this guy?
Yeah, sold out the guy.
Were they on the same plane?
Same plane.
And then when the plane's going down, the guy has to be like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Why are we landing?
Nope, it's all quick. You know how it is. If FBI's quick, it was. You could see. I guess in the videos, you can see El Mayo's hands are all like a little roughed up because he didn't want to get caught. He wasn't in on it.
You think they were just throwing right there on the plane?
I think it got a little crazy. I don't think it was.
Dude, that's crazy, dude.
All right, here's some footage from it. Let's check it out.
Leaders of Mexico's most brutal and powerful drug cartel are in U.S. custody. Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the 37-year-old son of Sinaloa cartel boss Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, and the cartel's co-founder, Ismael El Mayo Zambada Garcia, age 75, arrested after landing in a private plane in New Mexico.
Both men are facing multiple charges in the United States for leading the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly drug manufacturing.
Doesn't he look like the fish guys from Star Wars?
3 law enforcement officials tell NBC News investigators believe Guzman Lopez may have fooled El Mayo into getting on the plane.
Yeah, there it is.
Possibly under the impression Guzman Lopez would get more favorable treatment from authorities. El Mayo is one of the DEA's most wanted fugitives.
Stop.
Accused of funneling huge quantities.
What does that mean,
This
El Mayo?
narrative is so full of shit. Like, I'm not saying this didn't happen. This is all theater. This is all theater.
Just to show we got someone like, look, we finally get something.
These guys work for the CIA. These guys work with Israel. Dude, this is all theater. They have to do these things to make people think they're fighting crime.
What is that? Just means May, right? like the month of May? What is it? Why would he call him the
Mayo,
May?
the
What-
Mayo.
Mayo, there's mayo.
Mayo.
He loves sandwiches with mayo, dude.
No, but really,
mayo.
that's like Cinco de Mayo, like May, right?
Yeah, I don't
Look
really
it
know
up,
what it stands
Johnny.
for.
I'm
Put
trying
that
to
in the
look.
translator.
Look, that's
It
the
just says
oldest.
May.
That's the picture they have of him from like 1990. They couldn't get a picture of him.
Oh,
That's
you
how
think
in the
he's
cut.
older?
No, that's how in the cut he was. No, they couldn't get a picture of him.
No, but yeah, he doesn't pop his head up. Is what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, he wouldn't. You couldn't get a picture of him. So and then he like did plastic surgery to his face so people wouldn't
really?
see
Oh
him.
yeah, you could look at his nose.
Yeah,
you
his
can
nose
see
is all
like
fucked
you
up.
said,
Yeah.
It's like even there, it's like Michael Jackson nose.
Bro, that I am being honest with you. I think that Guzman played his hand wrong, dude.
You think they tricked him?
No, I think I think he's gonna get a deal.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack, tinfoil hack, tinfoil.